always think it's best to start with a little bit of music, so we'll do that. If you know the chant for teachers and students, you can go ahead. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunatu Saha Viryam Karavai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, good evening and welcome. I'm Matthew, and this is Scott Petrie, and we have Jennifer Talifer, and we have Monica Bellier, and a couple of other probably associates of Yoga Community Toronto, and we're really happy to host this second in a series of town halls, probably an indefinitely extending series of town halls as the issues that we're dealing with go very long and very deep. And I also want to let you know and thank you for your forbearance of the fact that we have this video set up. We didn't really expect this. This is just in the last 2 days this came, and the folks at Toronto Body Mind are running it. So this is Greg and EK, and is it Krista? So thanks for coming. And it's kind of necessary in a way because we did an audio recording of the first event, and we had over 1,000 listens globally to the initial town hall. So we wanted to publicize our work and the various perspectives that it generates as broadly as we can. So that's what we're doing. Do know that if you're not interested in being filmed or in having your whatever you have to offer to the conversation recorded, just don't take the mic. That's fine, because we can be real people without this too. Okay. The fact that we had 1,000 listens, about 1,000 listens from around the world, doesn't mean that we know what we're doing. It just means that we really touched a nerve, and we'd like to continue doing that. And so as far as order of business goes, we're scheduled to go to 9 p.m., but you can stay for as long as you like. My partner and I live here, so we're happy to have you late. What we're going to do first in terms of an order is we're going to start with a reiteration of the points that we came up with in September 30th meeting. And this is to foster continuity. It also speaks to the fact that the yoga tradition is recursive and things get repeated all the time. They need to be as we digest them well. So we're going to start with a little bit of a review, and it's up on the board. We've published this on our site as well. But at the same time, we also want to invite a kind of free-floating and reaction-type energy. There were some pretty emotional bits last time and some exchanges. We want to provide good, safe, friendly space for that and for passion to come out. We also want to acknowledge that what we've begun is a very long process, and for many of us, this simply begins with plain speaking. I think we just want to acknowledge that we don't have to know where we're going with this project in order for us to be led towards some good self-reflection and integrity. Okay, so we want you to feel free to come and go. Hopefully you know where the bathrooms are. There's tea there. And also, there's no fee or donation for the event, but there is some cost involved in renting some equipment. There's a bowl there on the tea table next to Mini Ganesh, and you can donate to that if you like. There's about $100 in expenses that we have for rental of equipment and stuff. Please, we have these microphones to circulate, and this will capture and record all of the material that we generate. Indicate that you'd like to speak just by raising your hand. And 3 microphones will float around, and Scott has one, Jen has one. And please identify yourself by name before you begin, because part of this is many of us, almost all of us, I think, in this room know each other, or are starting to anyway. But we certainly want to know each other better, and maybe a little bit about what you do. Just a few words. There might be the possibility that some of you have come with like prepared statements. If that's true, I know Jeff Weeb isn't here tonight, so that might not be as. Oh, he will be. Yeah, he's going to come and take the floor. But if somebody is clearly giving a prepared, a bit, we'll take a couple of minutes afterwards to respond to that discreetly. Okay, instead of letting the prana of that just evaporate. And we should expect some repetition of themes throughout the evening. Okay, so I think that will call out the best of our patience. And then we'll talk about at 9 o'clock what to go forward with, because last time we split into 3 working groups, and this is actually as a segue into just a little bit of review of what we came up with. So on the 30th of September. We asked specific questions for consideration. We posed specific questions for consideration. Number 1 was, how can teachers and recent graduates be better supported in their, both in their own development, continuing development, and in their professional life? And the working group came up with, it would be lovely to institute ongoing mentorship, in the form of class reunions, regular formal meetings. It would be excellent to have graduate level programming for YTT graduates. Also some training and professional expectations, as in, what are you going to, as a young yoga teacher, encounter as you move into this, what we can only describe as being a marketplace, really. And then there was a suggestion for open dialogue regarding standard remuneration of teachers. And that's all under the heading of how can we support teachers and recent graduates in terms of professional and developmental life. Now, as I go through these things, I want you to know that these aren't, there's nothing binding about any of what we discussed. These were good ideas that many people agreed upon. And that's all they are. There's no, no decisions have been formed. There's no, authoritative body. We have no idea what one would look like if there was, but we'll get to that because that's at the end. So these are just good ideas generated by good dialogue, and we're happy to provide the space for that. Number 2 is how would yoga teacher training improve? Here was a big point. There were a number of suggestions that trainees or applicants to YTT programs should kind of clear some sort of prerequisite programming, some sort of, what have you done to bring you to the place of yoga teacher training? Why do you think this is suitable for you? What do you think you have to offer this tradition and your students through it? And we wanted, people were careful to say that this shouldn't just be about what your yoga practice to this point has been about, but also what is your life experience? Do you have you been a teacher, right, in another career? What's your field of knowledge? There was a very strong feeling that that should be part of any kind of prerequisite, package that we started to visualize for the improvement of yoga teacher training. And then here was something that was sticky, but people pretty much agreed upon, that teacher trainers, the folks who have the gumption, some would say the gall, to open teacher training programs, probably should voluntarily submit themselves to some kind of peer review process. Again, this is a good idea that many people agreed upon, and it's going to be controversial. Many people won't like it, and that's why we're here. So, also, graduation probably should occur after some kind of examination. Does anybody flunk out of YTT? Why not? What are the standards, really, for passage through? within this, what's becoming a ritual now in one of the only ways in which this contemporary yoga culture actually ritualizes itself, okay? And then YTT should have limited class numbers. The number that was floated around and agreed upon by that particular working group was around 20. Some people said 18, some people said 26, and I think they split the difference. And then Chaitanya was very big on this, but everybody agreed. Chaitanya Penwar said that curriculum should really include and involve pedagogical technique. What does it mean to hold educational space? What does it mean to use your voice in a pedagogical manner? What are the structures of knowledge transmission? Shouldn't we be familiar with them as we go into our lives as yoga educators? So this is, how can YTT improve? Number 3 is the stickiest of all. And this is kind of where we bring to, these are the warm-up, topics. But number 3 really speaks to the generalized title of these meetings, towards integrity, standards, and sustainability. Because what we all feel breathing down our necks is the specter of regulation coming from something more substantial and with more teeth than the various rubber stamp organizations that we currently involve ourselves with and sometimes resentfully send money to. So number 3 is, how could a representative organization, whether it's Yoga Community Toronto or any other organization, we're listening. If anybody wants to volunteer, we'd be very interested in hearing that. How would any representative organization for a yoga community, for yoga as a profession, for the vocation of yoga, organize, regulate, here's the stickiest word of all, elevate teacher training and yoga as a vocation? And this working group, I think Rosemary was part of it, was that right? Yeah, and Scott and several others. The decision, first of all, would have to be made, who and what is being represented. Next, and this is huge. So if we get over that, all right, let's go over to rotating democratically elected board for a representative organization. Now we're already creating a picture of something that is nothing like the various accreditation organizations that we're talking about. I think what we're edging towards in this part of the exposition is the feeling that we need something personable as a yoga community, as a rising vocation. And that's what rotating democratically elected board suggests to me, is that if there's somebody spearheading our community, we should know who they are, and we should vote for them in the way we do other things civically. The clear feeling was that local committees are better. This is a really bizarre concept in a wired world, but it's something that I think most people feel very strongly about. It's just we're completely bewildered as to how that actually works. We had a meeting today when we were talking about sustainable income flow for a community organization, and all of the ideas that were pitched around the table had something to do with cyberspace, right? Try to make money and try to sustain yourself through something coming from